Okay, good morning or good afternoon, eighth graders and seventh grade honors kids. We are going to learn about random samples today. Not hard at all, super easy. So basically, we're going to be able to do two things by the end of today. We need to determine whether conclusions to surveys are valid. Are they going to be valid results? Okay. And to use sampling to make generalizations about the populations. So when you're going and you're going to use the sampling. So a sample is whoever they're surveying, like a group of people. We're going to use the group of people, the results you get, to make generalizations about those populations, okay? So I think it's really easy. It's not even like a lot of numbers involved today, so definitely easier than mean absolute deviation. All right, guys, so first, we need to make sure that we understand some basic vocabulary to be able to answer these questions. And there are quite a lot. I have taken a picture of this. I will put it into Google Classroom on today's lesson, okay? So don't freak out. Or you can also always just pause this video and come back to it. So I'm going to try to get it to where we don't have a glare, but sometimes that's impossible. Okay, so let's start out with the first thing first is survey. It's a method of collecting a sample of data by asking people questions. Okay, so you're just doing a survey. I feel like everybody should know that one. Okay, population is the entire group from which data may be collected. So every person that you're asking in the survey would be considered part of your population. Okay, an unbiased sample. Okay, every individual in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay, you're not being biased. You're not like, oh, I'm only asking black-headed people today questions. It could be redheads, brown heads, blonde heads, purple heads, whatever. So it's unbiased, okay? Or I'm just going to ask females today. It could be females, males, and I guess now unidentified genders. Okay, a biased sample, every individual in the population doesn't have an equal chance at being selected. So basically, a biased sample would be, I'm only asking females. I'm only asking males. I'm only asking, I don't know, I'm only asking people over the age of 50, okay? That would be biased. All right, so a random sample without any particular order or pattern. There's no pattern to it. Now, a systematic random sample is a method that requires selecting samples based on intervals. Okay, so method that requires selecting samples based on intervals. What that means is, an example of that is, let's say that I work at a movie theater and I'm going to ask every fourth customer a specific question about popcorn. So the interval is every 4 customers I'm asking, or every 3, but it's an interval. It's going to be the same interval every time. Okay, a convenience sample. Most available subjects in the population used to obtain quick results. So that would be like a convenience sample. Like say I had to do a survey and I just asked the people in my second period. That's convenience. They're right there, right? So it's not a true example, okay? Voluntary response sample made up of volunteers. It's always biased. So like people who call in on a radio show, it's going to be biased because they're calling in because they listen to you every day, okay? Or asking, like a famous person asking their followers, like, how do you like my hair? It's going to be biased because they love them. So anyway, so we wanted to make sure that we understood some of the basic vocab because we're going to use it in just a second. Some homework practice that is located in your textbook. You can get it online if you're interested. And what we're going to do is, this is lesson 6, obviously chapter 9, lesson 6. We're going to determine whether each conclusion is valid, and then we're going to justify our answer. Okay, so this is basically what we're doing today. All right, so let's look at this. Number 1, Valerie is writing an article for the city newspaper about the various after-school activities in which the high school students of her city participate. She surveys 4 of her closest teenage girlfriends and concludes that the most preferred after-school activity amongst the city's teenagers is shopping. Okay, so let's think about this. Obviously, this sample is going to be biased because she is only asking her 4 closest teenage girlfriends, right? So it's also a convenient sample. She didn't really have to go out and ask random people. It's convenient. You know your best friends are going to answer you. So I would call this a biased convenience sample, and it does not represent the entire population of high school students residing in Valerie's city. Okay, right? That's not a good that wouldn't be good results, I would say. All right, we're going to do number 2 and just going to determine whether the conclusion would be valid, and we're going to justify our answer. So let's look at number 2. To determine the level of satisfaction with their customer service, a local department store asks its customers to go online and take a survey. After compiling the responses, the store concluded that 90% of its customers were very satisfied with the customer service. Okay, so this is something that I feel like is happening very frequently today. Like you go to a fast food restaurant or you go shopping at Walmart or whatever, they print off your receipt and then they ask you to take this survey and you could get a chance to win whatever. So let's look at this. I would not say this is that this would be valid conclusions, okay? This is not valid results, because it's a voluntary random sample. So it's random people and it's voluntary, like whether they feel like going on and doing it or not. So since a sample is not representative of the entire population, this conclusion cannot be valid, okay? We'll do number 3 in just a second. The conclusions to the survey of this number 3 question is valid. So number 3 says customers at a bookstore are randomly surveyed about their preferred method of receiving notification about upcoming specials being offered by the bookstore. The results of the survey are shown in the graph. It is concluded that half of the bookstore's customers would prefer to be notified through their email account. Okay, so if you look at this, 20%, 30%, 50%. Okay, so they randomly surveyed people at their bookstores, customers. I would say yes, this is a valid conclusion to the survey. Okay, this is a simple random sample, and since the sample is representative of the entire population, this conclusion is valid. So we're going to use the generalizations provided by this simple random sample, and we're going to make a prediction. So you're going to need your calculator because this is going to involve math. All right, so a restaurant wants to offer pies on its dessert menu. The restaurant surveys 50 random customers about their favorite kind of pie. The results of the survey are shown in the table. If 400 servings of pie are ordered, how many of them should be apple? Okay, so this is how we're going to do it. All right, so we want to find, we're talking about apple pie. So 28 out of 50 customers, 28 out of 50 prefer apple pie. So if we divide 28 divided by 50, we get 0.56. Or you could say 56% of your customers, they prefer apple pie, okay? So we could take this 0.56 and we can multiply it by 400, and that will give us how many servings we need. 400, which is 224, right? Yeah. Okay, so you could also do it like this. I always like to do proportions because you learned that in 7th grade really a lot. Okay, so out of 400. So you could multiply 28 times 400 and you get 11,200. You could divide that by 50 and you're going to get 224 pies or servings of pie. That's how I would prefer to do it. Of course, it is up to you, however you feel like doing it. But you may be asked to do some of these on your assignment today. All right, guys, good luck. If you have questions, I hope that you answered that. I answered them or you asked them.